Hey everybody, this is Thomas Hogue, and this is the first episode of Solo Breakdown, where I'm going to learn a solo and then break it down. I've made some tabs which I'll put up on the screen. I'm going to play it fast, then I'll play it slowed down, and then I'll go part by part and talk about what's going on. You might notice my words aren't matching the video right now, and that's because I tried filming this yesterday, but the audio quality turned out really bad. So I'm going to have to rethink my microphone setup, and for now I'm just going to voice it over. The solo we're playing today is from The Sound of Truth by As I Lay Dying. Alright, so there you go. That's the whole solo from The Sound of Truth. Now that you've seen it a couple times, we can get started. I've got my guitar tuned in drop D, and the whole solo is in the key of D minor. So if you already know that scale across the fretboard, you're going to have a much easier time learning this, but even if you don't, that's okay, because I've got the tabs up on the screen. So to start off, we've got this kind of Noodly Ascension thing, and I believe that is the technical term, but really it's just a series of these two-note hammer-on pull-offs, starting at the D on the 3rd fret of the B string, and just going one step at a time up the scale. Okay, so now we've got this little sweep picking part. This is a D minor arpeggio, but luckily it's just the top 3 strings, so us mere mortals can play along. This is definitely a chord shape and arpeggio shape that you're going to see a lot of in metal solos, because as the root note chord, it's going to sound pretty good, or at least it's going to work over just about any rhythm part in this key. The tricky part here, though, is we're not just picking the notes, but we're also extending the arpeggio by tapping on to hit another higher octave of D at the 22nd fret. And you've also got to get solid enough contact there with enough sustain to also bend that note with your left hand after you hit it. So especially if the action on your guitar isn't super low, you might find that kind of difficult like I did. Next up, we've got this little transition piece and our first pentatonic lick. I don't have too much to say about this other than I think it's a good example of transitioning from a minor scale sound into a pentatonic sound. And while the pentatonic scale is part of the minor scale, when you focus on just the pentatonic notes like this, it definitely gives it a distinct sound and kind of a different bluesy, classic rock sound that can be cool to sprinkle in. Alright, so now we're slowing it down for a minute for this melodic part here, which I actually think is really important for the composition of the solo, because if you're just playing fast the whole time, nothing is going to stand out, and nothing is going to sound that fast. But ironically, if you add in a slower part like this, those faster parts are going to pop even more, and vice versa. There's also some cool details to pick up on here, like where he chooses to slide up to a higher scale position, where he's bending the notes, etc. Because especially in parts like this, it's those little details that are what give it character and add interest. next up, we've got this really fast pentatonic lick. So kind of just like I was just saying, you want to put the fast parts next to the slow part, makes this part pop out even more. And when you play it full speed, it sounds really crazy, like there's a lot going on, but it's actually a pretty simple pattern. Your hand isn't really moving around that much. And once you memorize the notes, I think you're going to find that it feels pretty natural and you'll be able to speed it up pretty quickly. And here we are, the final section of the solo. But we're not going to take it easy. We've got to put the cherry on top with this finger tapping part. We're building the tension up with that little ascending pattern and then landing on the final high note. And in this case, it's an A, which I also thought was interesting because 90% of the time you're going to end a solo on the root note, D in this case, because it sounds really resolved. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I have started to notice and appreciate times like this when solos end on a different note and it still sounds good. So that's just another little thing to think about. You don't necessarily have to end on the root note. You can try some of these other notes and intervals and see what it sounds like over whatever chord or part you've got coming next. All right, we made it. That's the full solo for The Sound of Truth by As I Lay Dying. Hopefully you found that helpful or entertaining, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing to see more. If you've got any feedback or ideas on how to make this format better or on a solo you want to see next, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.